Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Lighthouse sessions. I'm excited because today I have my new friend Jeremy Weisz with me. Jeremy, welcome to the show. Why don't you tell my guests a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Jeff, first of all, thank you. I think we think similarly, which is all about relationships. And, the short story, my background's in biochemistry, studied biochemistry at Wisconsin and Madison, went on to be a chiropractor. They do not teach business in chiropractic school. So I was listening to tapes in my car of Tony Robbins and various business professionals. And I was going to these, we were chatting before we hit record. I was going to these conferences to learn about business because I was, you have your chiropractic practice and you're running a small business. And I was learning about like all these different, business books and things. So I was studying that and I stumbled across at the time, this is like around 2006 or 2007. It wasn't called podcasting, but there was some people were they were interviewing people and publishing online as like an audio. And I was like, this is everything I love. This is professional development. I get to learn, ask questions from people. It's relationships I get to give to someone, publish what they're working on online. It's content marketing because, my background's in biochemistry. So I don't want to write an article. That's just not my strength, nor do I like to. But I've been able to do over 17 years, 2 episodes a week for over that amount of time, which is a full blog post and obviously audio, video, and everything like that. And so I kind of took to it and started connecting early on with some people I really admired. I've had the founder of Atari on the podcast, Pixar, P90X, RX Bar, and a number of others, Zapier, a number of software companies, and you get to learn from them and share what they're working on, right? And so people started coming to me at that time asking me to help them with their podcast, because I had a full-time chiropractic practice and I like saying yes and I like new challenges and I had a fully remote team because I couldn't do all the things since we're seeing patients, and so I'm like, sure, I'll help you, and slowly built up a separate business on accident. I never set out to have a separate business on this, and eventually exited the chiropractic business. And this is all I do. We help people launch and run podcasts. We help people get on podcasts. We also will do a gifting program for companies. So it's all about building relationships, right? Sending a gift of like every 4 months for years to our best referral partners, strategic partners, and clients.
I love it. And I want to point out for the audience, you'll find this out. But just to start the relationship with us, Jeremy reached out a few times and said, hey, you got to have this person on your show. It is really, truly about relationships. And the reason Jeremy's on the show today is I caught a line in one of his emails, I think it's in his signature actually, where he talks about the Dream 200. And I went, wait a minute, you feel like you're a fan of Chet Holmes. And it was instantly, yes, we both love the same concepts. And I'm also all about relationships. And one of my favorite books is The Go-Giver. I think that's
Bob Burg. Yeah, totally.
It's become one of my filters, believe it or not. But I also see game recognizes game. And so I saw that Jeremy, number one, he helps people with podcasts, but he's also helping podcasters. And so that was why I reached out. Now, who comes to you and who works with you? Because I know a lot of people that think they need a podcast. I'm going to be honest, I've killed more podcast ideas than I've launched because people come to me and they don't have the time, they don't have the technology, and they just want to get quick results. And so my advice is go guest on a podcast. But who's coming to you and what are they getting in that process?
Yeah, I'll talk about that. I do want to mention, piggybacking on what you said, love Bob Burg, love The Go-Giver. I don't know, he's been on my podcast twice. Has he been on yours yet, Jeff, or no?
I've had the pleasure of interviewing Bob
Okay,
twice as
cool.
well.
Yeah, he's
Love
great.
the man.
Yeah, all his books. Adam Grant's book also. I think it's called Give and Take. What's it called? Give and Take, maybe. Adam Grant. Yeah, Adam Grant's book Give and Take, and it's about givers, matchers, and um, you know, basically the givers are the most successful, and givers are also the least successful. Right. So givers, matchers, and takers, and it talks about that in the book. But like you said, the go-giver is a filter. That's also a filter for me, as well as Adam Grant's Give and Take. And yeah, big fan of Amanda Holmes. I had on the podcast. Chet Holmes kind of coined Dream 100. And so who do we work with? Jeff, we work with companies, really companies who have a high client lifetime value. It's a lot of B2B companies, but it could be B2C, who want to find ways to build amazing relationships, right? And we do that through, having them be an authority in their space through having our own podcast, connecting with other authorities in the space through their podcast, and creating amazing content and giving the people in that space through their podcast. So it's a great way I feel, to give to other people in the space that they're in. I mean, it could be anywhere from companies like software companies to digital agencies to, we have a waste management company, we have a pest control business. So, it's all over the map on who we have served over the past decade, at Rise 25. But it's really about someone who really gets, listen, I want to build, it could be someone with a long sales cycle, right? Just to nurture, build relationships, and create great content. And like you said, some people, like I was talking to someone the other couple weeks ago, they have an AI company, and it just felt like they'd be better served as being a guest on podcasts. So
Yeah.
they came to me thinking, well, maybe I want to host my own show. And I kind of said, I don't, maybe not right this second, maybe later on, but I think this may be the best option for you going forward, is go guest on a bunch of shows and see how you like it. Because obviously, as you know, having your own podcast it's a commitment, right?
Yep.
It's, when we're talking relationships, there's no real shortcut, right? It's just building relationships and genuinely wanting to help people. And Brian Kurtz is one of my friends, mentors, colleagues. He wrote Over Deliver, which is a great book. And he talks about 100-0, which is like, I'm going to give 100% and not expect anything in return. Okay. Now, of course, we do business and things with our friends, and that kind of goes back into the give and take, which is like, Jeff, you'll be like, well, Jeremy, like, if you give 100%, don't expect anything in return, then like, are you going to fall into that giver who's the least successful in give and take? But I always like to give to givers like yourself, right? Yeah. So if I know I'm a giver, Jeff is a giver, and I get, like, good things will happen. I don't have to worry about it. So that's kind of how I think about the 100-0, not expecting anything. When I make an introduction to you, I'm not expecting anything in return. I'm just like doing it because I think it will help.
I love that. And, for what it's worth, when I interviewed Bob, he actually explained the 5 laws of stratospheric success. And the one that I missed all the time was receptivity, because I'm like, no, let me help you. And he said, it's like oxygen. You keep breathing out. At some point, you're going to black out because you haven't breathed in. So
it's a good point. Yeah. And I think I struggle with that too, with receiving, right?
Yeah.
So thank you for that reminder.
And Bob also said, and this was one of my favorite quotes, you can't outgive the universe.
Right.
And that's, there's a couple things I want to unpack in what you said, because a lot of people who live in scarcity challenge that 100-0, but I live it every day. It's like, I help enough people, the world makes sure I'm taken care of. But I want to challenge you on what I get all the time when people go, oh, you're a podcaster, you must be broke and unsuccessful. Please challenge that, because I know you've got a theory on that.
I didn't realize that was a thing, but okay. I mean, when we work with podcasts, we don't do true crime podcasts or comedy podcasts. We do podcasts for people who have businesses, right?
Yep.
And I feel like if someone's trying to be the next Joe Rogan or trying to monetize via ads, it is very difficult. There's no doubt about it, right? But if someone has an actual business and they're building relationships around for their business, we have clients, software companies got $1 million client lifetime value. Okay. They get one client, it's worth $1 million. Right.
Yeah.
And they've said, Jeremy, after you helped and you're working with us, we got a client and that client's going to be worth $3 million for us. One client. So if someone is monetizing via ads, I don't disagree with that statement. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
But if someone is an actual business and they're building relationships for partnerships, for strategic and referral partnerships for their business to give to their current clients, like I'll have my current clients on too, to help them. So, if someone doesn't have a business, how do you make money? But if most of these people have a business and if their client lifetime value is whatever, 10, 20, 50,000, 100,000, could be over $1 million, right? So it only takes one relationship a year to 2 years, 3 years to monetize a podcast, right? But it's also about relationships. Like, I don't put like a dollar sign on everything. I've had best friends that I've had from the podcast. I've gone on family vacations. I still do from people I've had on the podcast. I have mentors who have mentored me because I've had them on the podcast, right? There's so many intangible things from a relationship perspective that is priceless for me.
Yeah.
So I would do the podcast if no one listened to it. Right.
I just realized the word. Okay, so I'm going to give you context. You probably get this too, but I get pitch slapped daily. People trying to sell me lead generation, business development, and almost always it's marketing and sales. And the word I use is relationship and referral based. And they immediately go, "Oh, you must be starving." And I realize that tells me so much about them and their business. I get annoyed when I hear it, but now it's like, wait a minute, it's just they're telling me who they are, and I now need to believe and listen to them, because if that's their approach to life, and I think Bob said it, a lot of people stand in front of the fireplace and say, if you give me warmth, I'll put the fuel in. Relationships, you put the fuel in and the warmth comes. I have a feeling you and I have very similar philosophies, because I see my network as a portfolio. And it's like, I might invest a little bit of time and energy into helping somebody today. Today I'm helping Jeremy. Tomorrow, somebody Jeremy introduces me to might lift my portfolio. And I think that's where the 100-0 comes in, is I don't expect anything from Jeremy. And because I don't expect anything, I know we'll find something we're going to do together somehow.
Yep.
Even if it's a podcast episode.
And I think, when people think oftentimes they say, where do your best clients come from? They come from referrals. The issue I find that people have is they don't have a predictable way of getting those referrals. It just comes in whenever it comes in, right? And so they don't control that. But I do feel like a podcast creates a more predictable referral engine, because I'm constantly, I may do 5, I don't only publish 2, but I may do 5 to 10 interviews this week. So I'm always connecting with people, and always putting out more episodes about them, putting out more content about them. And so it's kind of inherent, a follow-up system as well, which benefits them, because it's marketing materials they can then use to promote themselves, right? Yep. So I do see people say referrals are my best, but it's not reliable, right? Yep. Because they don't have the engine for it to be reliable.
Well, the irony is the last guy who pitch slapped me, he claimed to build client acquisition engines. And I'm like, so where do podcasting and referrals fit in? Oh, those are both a waste of time. Okay. But to me, it's
That's fine.
more room for us. And,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
that's, I think, again, coming back to the go-giver as a filter, not everybody believes that relationships lead to business. And that's okay, because it means people like us find one another and we find ways to make each other more successful. So you've been podcasting for a while. What are some of your biggest influences? What's some of the lessons you wish you'd learned earlier on?
I mean, when I think of a podcast, there's really, Jeff, I think of like 5 steps to a successful podcast, B2B, like business podcast.
Yeah.
Right. Caveat. And that goes into the kind of the foundational piece, and you mentioned this in the beginning, is to create the Dream 200. So the biggest mistake, there's many mistakes I see people making, or they come to me with, which is focusing on things that are not going to move the needle for them. And so creating that Dream 200 is really the foundational piece. If we step back a second from there, we really have to evaluate, well, what is the, and when I say Dream 200, some people think, oh, clients, Dream 200 clients. I kind of broaden it. I think of it more as strategic partners, referral partners, big authorities in the space, and obviously could include potential clients. But the question is, who are the best people in your universe that you want to give to, right? And that, not making it too broad, like if someone specializes in dentist or something, so it's not shocking, all those type of relationships would center around that universe, right? And so I start with creating that Dream 200 with clients, right? Then, and that there's a lot of items that get thought through, because even within there, it's like, well, what are your goals as a company, right? And I'll give you an example. So like some goals maybe like to grow referral partners, some maybe to grow clients. We had one client, they're like, we are full as far as our clients go. Like, we can't take any more clients. We're busy. Okay, what is your biggest goal? Hiring. We need really amazing engineers. Okay, so that's your goal. Let's build out a Dream 200 based on that goal. And I'm like, well, where do you get most of your great hires from engineers? Oh, university professors who teach engineering. Okay, so then we built that, strategy around their goal, but around university of professors of engineering. Okay. And so okay, what if you had 3 conversations a week with different university professors all over the nation? What do you think that would do for the pool of people that they would send you to hire? Right. And so that's the first thing. The second is the reaching out, right? And some people have different thoughts about reaching out, right? And with a podcast, obviously, regardless if you have a podcast or not, when I reach out to someone, I want it to be a give, okay, not an ask. So a lot of the, like you said, the kind of the cold email people out there, and we've gotten them, it's basically just spewing out everything that company does, and nothing seems to be in it for me. So when I'm sending a messaging, how could it be a give? And we talk about like different, texting, emailing, LinkedIn, Facebook, and all of them at once. I gave a talk at this conference. Jeff called it the non-stalking stalking method to get a hold of anyone. And at first glance, what I do may seem like stalking. Okay. Meaning like I may message someone on different platforms all at the same time, because the bottom line is I don't know they may only check 1 or 2, and people don't realize that, right? Like if I message you, Jeff, on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, you're like, I really only check LinkedIn, right? You may not even see the other messages. So there's ways to do that. But also my ask is not, I'm not asking anything, right? I'm trying to either introduce them to someone or have them on my show. So I think of what are the best ways to reach out. And the third is kind of the art and science of the content, right? And so how do you not only produce great content, but I've done thousands of interviews at this point. And I've studied thousands of hours of other people doing interviews too, maybe tens of thousands. What produces great content, but also what produces a good relationship. And then people also talk about technology setup. And some people are focused on technology setup and they're focused, what mic do I get? What camera do I get? This and that. And I'm like, what do I name my show? Like hung up on things that are stopping them that I think shouldn't be. Like when I started mine, Jeff, I didn't have a name of my show for 6 months. Like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, I just was like, I got started. I'm like, hey, Jeff, welcome to the show. And I had no name for it. I mean, I bought my name as a URL, jeremyweisz.com. And I just started doing it. And I'm like, I'll think of a name at some point and then I'll do it. So, but from a technology setup, we get that question a lot. I mean, you use whatever you use. Like right now we're on Google Meet. Like people use Zoom, people use Microsoft Teams, whatever you use, just normally for meetings, use it. I mean, back in the day, obviously there was no any of these, right? And I was using Skype video at the time, and I had to teach people to install it. But that was just what I just used what was available. And like a USB mic, you'd be like, what mic? It needs to be. You could literally go on Amazon and put like USB mic for podcasting and find a good mic that plugs in your computer. I mean, this is a ATR 2100. I think it's upgraded since then. I have a Blue Yeti in my other office. You're all in for $150, right? Yeah. So there's that piece. The next is just build your give loop and grow your reach. Like people are always worried about, well, how do I build my reach? And it goes back to the Dream 200. I'm more, and you're the same. I'm more concerned of quality over quantity. I'm not looking for 1 million downloads or 1 million people listening. I'm looking for 200 great people that I want to connect with and form a deep relationship with. And if those are the people I have on my show and they kind of tune in, that's awesome. And then obviously turning that 30-minute conversation into, publishing across 15 different podcasts, all the different podcast channels, YouTube, social media. And so that puts it out there and that allows it shareable for the guest. And then the last is turn the guest into partners. And that goes back into giving. I say the best way to get referrals is to give referrals. So I probably make 5 to 20 introductions every single day to people in my network.
I can attest to that.
Yeah.
And by the way, they're good. I've met some amazing people, so I want to publicly thank you for that.
Yeah, and I'm always thinking, you mentioned, Chet Holmes. I'm like, okay, I had Amanda Holmes on. Amanda, if you're listening, I'm like, Jeff has a great show. It'll benefit both of you to go on, right? And so I just try and make those. I'm just listening to what people are needing or wanting. So that's really the 5 things that I think about that make a successful podcast. When it's successful, to me, it means you're forming relationships that move someone forward in their personal life and business.
I love it. And for what it's worth, I was laughing through some of your points because I talk about those things too. And people look at me like I'm strange and they're like, you don't actually believe that, do you? And I'm like, I am all about relationships. And by the way, that was my early aha moment. Was I was trying to teach transactional people how to do what I do. And they're like, this is stupid. There's so much work going into it. You spend so much time helping other people. And I'm like, but I guess now I realize I've spent most of my life building this network and building these relationships. To a transactional person, they're starting at ground zero. And then to try and talk about the strategy of it and adding value to this market, Believe me, you and I are going to have more conversations about this, because personally, I think every nonprofit who wants sponsorship, they should have a podcast. Every chamber of commerce, every BNI group, honestly, imagine the reach of a BNI group if all their members were on a podcast together.
100%.
But it's always, I keep tripping on, I assume, I see relationships everywhere, so I assume everybody wants to do this. Now I recognize, oh, you're not one of us. I will just back away.
Even some people it comes natural to them, and some people, are open to it and hearing it, and some people aren't, right? And that's totally fine. But like you said, it's just easier to have a conversation with someone who gets it, right? And maybe I fall into that trap of like trying too much to like, hey, like this really does, giving to people in this way really does help both parties, right? So it kind of goes back into the, givers, takers, and matchers. And so I'm like thinking, okay, this person's a giver, they get it.
Yeah. Well, for what it's worth, Jeremy, I used to be the crazy, the missionary out in the wild trying to convert people from transactional to relational. And after getting burned alive a few times, I'm like, I'm just going to go back to the safety of the relationship camp. And for what it's worth, anybody I've met who is a fan of Bob Burg's, I know we're going to get along. So you and I, we're going to have some fun here. Now, I could talk to you all day, because there's so many questions I have about strategy and how you're doing things. And, this could be a long Joe Rogan style 4-hour interview. I won't do that. But where can people go to connect with you and learn more about you and Rise 25, which, again, we want to make sure they know that that's your foundation?
Yeah, if you go to rise25.com, there's a video on there and you can learn more. I mentioned what we do, how we help people, but if you email me, I'm happy to answer any questions you want. I'm active on LinkedIn. People could check out my podcast is inspiredinsider.com, and that's where I publish my episodes, and I publish 2 episodes a week for over a decade. And you'll find, we do episodes, and everything we talk about, we'll do an episode on the questions we get, right? So we release everything for free about podcasting itself. Obviously, if people want a shortcut, they hire us and have them help them. But, like we have an episode, how do you name your podcast? We have an episode on what are your best thought leader, episodes you should be creating as a thought leader. We have episodes on how to launch the best B2B podcast. So we share it all for free. So if you go on inspiredinsider.com and search, or if you're just interested in learning more, listen, I have a software company. I'll learn about other software founders, and just type SaaS in the search, and you'll see a bunch of the software founders I've had on there. I've had the founder of Mailshake and Zapier and Pipedrive and Aweber and ActiveCampaign, and it goes on, or anything you're interested in, just type it in there.
I love it. Well, Jeremy, thank you for being on the show. And I really appreciate all the great connections, and hi to Amanda and hi to Bob, because, Bob brought the language into my world for the Go Givers. So, and of course, we'll shout out to Adam Grant, because that's a great clarification. So thank you for being on the show, Jeremy.
I appreciate it. This is great.